Good morning, everybody. Hey, welcome to the 23rd of September, and the last full week of September, last full week of the quarter as well. Well, I think Monday is the last day of the month. So a week from now, we will be almost in October. So we've got that to look forward to as we look at where the markets end up here shortly. Remember that there are so many things in this world that we have no control over, but you can take control of your investment portfolio by knowing the amount of risk you have in your portfolio and making sure that it lines up with the amount of risk you should have in your portfolio based on your current age and how close you are to retirement. Give us a call at 863-382-0037 to schedule your core retirement analysis. Hey, we got Dave coming up next.
Breathless sometimes. The great late Whitney Houston there at 105.7 Light FM. Morning all, we're at 8:41 now. 'Tis time to see what your money's doing on Wall Street this morning. Not a bad week last week, Friday notwithstanding. We had a little bit of red ink on Friday as we started getting nervy. Let's see if the nerves are calmed and we're back into green ink this morning. Phillip Statler from Statler Financial Services is on the phone with us. Phillip, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Dave. Doing well as we head into this last full week of September, and next Monday is the end of the quarter. So, we'll start to see some swapping out and, portfolios making changes, mutual funds making changes. So that may cause some volatility this week, just as money managers start moving around their portfolios a little bit.
Yeah, it could be kind of interesting. I mean, Friday and Monday both, I don't know which one's going to be the crazier day, because with the quarter ending on a Monday, I don't know of a portfolio manager that really wants to take a chance with leaving all the money on the table over a weekend when you can't control anything. I mean, your quarter could go to heck in a handbasket if something weird happens over a weekend. So Friday and Monday especially could be real volatile, couldn't they?
They could be, that, and Thursday and Friday, we've got some numbers coming out too, economically, that could also, put some emphasis in that volatility as well.
Absolutely, which is what we'll get to as soon as we set the table for the day. Friday was it was an up day on the blue chips. The Dow was up by $38. Standard and Poor's, though, and the Nasdaq were both off. Nasdaq was off by over 1/3%, down 66. Nasdaq, the S&P was down by $11. As we were talking about it ahead of time, neither one of us had a chance to actually look and see if it was NVIDIA that dragged it down. But over the week, last week, after that interest rate decrease from the Fed, the entire Magnificent Seven, we've been talking about the tech stocks getting beat up lately, everything on the Magnificent Seven tech stocks were up except for NVIDIA, and they lost 2% last week. So I'm kind of guessing the NASDAQ, being a price-weighted market, kind of got weighed down by that, wouldn't you guess?
I'm guessing it probably did. I'm looking right now at Intel, and it's actually got some green ink to it this morning. So that's some good news there.
Yeah, they gained a little bit of green yesterday, but they were the laggard among the positive movements on the tech stocks there. Intel's interesting. It's funny how somebody that basically invented the processor that powered 90% of the computers out there can be a dinosaur, but really in the world of the new reduced instruction set computers and everything, and cell phones that work on ARM chips and everything, Intel is kind of becoming a dinosaur in the tech world now, aren't they?
Yeah, it just goes to show you got to keep up or you get left behind really quick.
Absolutely. Get adventurous or die. Talking about all that's going on this week, Monday, it's a usually quiet day, and it's even more boring than usual today in terms of stuff that's out. It's going to be a real busy week, though, with a bunch of housing figures coming out over Tuesday and Wednesday. On Thursday, we end up getting the gross domestic product, the second look at the second quarter of the gross domestic product. And then on Friday, we find out whether Jay Paulson was right and PCE inflation comes out, that number that he's looking at. You and I were talking before we went on the phone. The core has been hovering in the upper twos, and like I said last week, I still think that the half-point reduction in interest rates indicates the Fed pretty well has thrown in the towel on 2% core inflation. If it goes up like it might be expected to on Friday, I don't know what that's going to do to the market. Combine that with the end of the quarter, I think it could be intriguing.
It definitely could be. It definitely will put some pressure, I think, on the markets with that information coming out. And let's face it, you got all the Fed presidents on the dinner circuit now. Crazy how many speeches they've got coming out this week.
Oh yeah, I mean they couldn't take any free food the week before the meeting, so they're making up for the difference right now and saving on their grocery budgets, right?
It seems to be that way.
It was kind of an interesting curve after the interest rate decrease. Party time for a couple of days after Wednesday, and then on Friday, all of a sudden things got back to a kind of semi-normal pattern on the stock market, up a little, down a little. It almost looked like a normal day on Friday, didn't it?
It really did. Nothing earth-shattering happened. I mean, yeah, it was up and down a little bit, but nothing huge actually came into play. But now we're coming to that last week of the quarter, and all bets are really kind of off, right? Because now it's going to be any little thing out there could put some pressure on the markets one way or the other.
And you never know what the event is going to hit. I do, for what it's worth, DJT Media is up because after Trump said no to a second debate, that evidently made a bunch of people buy his stock. So little things mean a lot in terms of activity.
Yeah, that's true. It does. Doesn't take much, I guess.
The only other tidbit I really had, if you can't tell it was a slow news day, is Bank of America has announced this morning they're going to open up 40 new offices before the end of the year. My flippant response to that was, I wonder if there's going to be any people inside of them.
Yeah,
the regular.
It's one of those ATM offices, right?
Yeah, it could be very well. I mean, at the point of computer banking, it's at the point the big chains really don't want you in the offices. They want you using their ATM machines. So I was kind of wondering if they planned on actually adding any staff. Expectations, talking about these two numbers that are going to really make the week, the Thursday gross domestic product, they expected it to be they expected on my tip sheet anyway, to revise second quarter growth downward. We had 3% earlier. They're expecting it to be revised downward to 2.9% in the second quarter. And I think you mentioned that they're expecting core PCE inflation to actually rise a little bit on Friday. Neither one of those numbers is going to impress markets much.
No, they won't. And for the PCE, core to go up 0.1%, which is the expectation, to me, that kind of flies in the face of the Fed, right? That we would expect it to be heading down with the interest rate reduction that we saw last week.
Which kind of underscores the notion of throwing in the towel. The other number that really doesn't move the market all that terribly much week by week, but it's going to be interesting this time. On Wednesday, when we get the Mortgage Bankers Association weekly mortgage application count. Now, it's only half the week that's affected by that, but it only took 24 hours for interest rates on a home mortgage to dip down by over 0.1 point last week based on the reduction in interest rates out of the Fed. I'm wondering whether or not we're going to see a big bump in mortgage applications on that report coming up on Wednesday. And if we do, whether or not that's going to become a market mover that generally we shrug off as just being trivia.
Well, that's true. I mean, I noticed in my area, we've got a few more houses on the market. We've had a few more sell, but at a lower price than what they were listed at, let me tell you. But still, we are starting to see some traction again in some of the real estate market, not super fast, and the prices aren't going up extremely high, but at least they're starting to move some properties again.
Well, it's starting to move some property. I was talking to a real estate agent friend of mine last week, and he said basically that there's a price point right now that still has the market at the point where you put up the sign and 3 hours later there's an offer on it, but you go $10 over that benchmark number that happens to be hot for any week at a time, and you're sitting on your hands for a few weeks until you get any nibbles. We're really not all that price flexible right now as far as the buyers are concerned, and it's purely a function of the fact that mortgage rates are up. So the fact they went down by a little bit may end up taking that break point number and bring it up by a little bit, but we're not setting the world on fire quite yet, only going to 6.09%.
No, we're not. I think we crossed that 6 number down into the 5s, and I think we should see a little bit more movement in that area.
Absolutely. Other tidbits you got floating around this morning? Like I said, it's a really quiet news day so far.
I don't. I mean, one of the things that's driving Intel up a little bit this morning is
Hmm.
there's one of the asset management companies, Apollo Global Management, that's really offered to make an equity investment into Intel of like $5 billion. So that's one of the things I think that's helping them this morning as we get going. I found it interesting that General Motors got downgraded by Bernstein, and that's got
Ooh.
them trading down at almost 3% this morning as we get ready to go. Same Pinterest. Um, they got a new Deutsche Bank has started following them and doing the research for them, and they must have a buy on them because they're up 3% this morning. So just some research, and some companies are starting to follow new companies, and that always makes some adjustments in the stock price.
Which will get even more vociferous and frequent as we get toward the end of the week, witness the end of the quarter. Resetting the table, up on the blue chips, down on the rest of the market on Friday, 45 minutes before we open today. What are we looking at?
So we got just a tinge of green ink this morning, Dave. The S&P 500 is up between tenth and 2/10. The Dow Jones Industrial 30 is up less than 1/10%. And then the NASDAQ 100 is up a little over 0.2% right now. So nothing catastrophic this morning, moving one way or another. On the other side, we got silver down 1.25%. Gold is up about almost 0.2, and then crude oil is up 1/10 to $71.07 a barrel. Davis just can't get going the right way.
That's very grumble, grumble, grumble. With a 1.4% gain on the S&P last week and the Dow up 1.6, a nothing day I'm figuring is good news because that means we'll just hang on to the gains we got last week, right?
That's right, and moving into the quarter, that's not bad.
Yeah, the longer it stays there, the more permanent it becomes, I suspect. Overseas markets, the Asian Rim, generally in pretty good humor at 6 a.m. when they closed. Most of the indexes up. Even one of the two mainland Chinese markets were up, which is really good news. Over in Europe, they're generally in good humor as well. Fractional increases were up about 0.25% overall in Europe halfway through their trading day. Getting a retirement plan together that someday you might be able to retire. How do you make sure that happens, Phillip? How do I find you to do it?
Hey, folks, they can give us a call at 863-382-0037 to schedule a core retirement analysis where we'll analyze where they are and make sure they're on the path to the retirement they always dreamed of. And then join us this weekend for the Statler Financial Radio Show, 6 a.m. and noon on Saturday, 10 a.m. Sunday morning on Highlands News Talk, 7:30 a.m. and 95.3 FM.
All righty, and back again here tomorrow morning with an update as to what's going on with your money up to the minute. Phillip, thank you so much. I'll talk to you then.
All right, buddy. Have a great day.
Thank you. Be well. It's 105.7 Light FM and Statler Financial Services. Phillip Statler.
Hey, folks, again, I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope that you guys had a great weekend, and will join us again tomorrow. Same time, same place. Until then, have a great day. Bye now.